Okay. Still, you want to give some kind of brief before, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, sure. Just a 1 minute intro for those of you who are not familiar with the company. We are Tester Academy and Consulting, an AI consulting and education company based in London. We help companies and professionals get started with AI, and we deal with the end-to-end life cycle from strategy all the way to implementation. And also we have a lot of educational programs. Our flagship one being the AI and Web3 Mastery course, which I'm going to share in Zoom. And there's also a certificate for this program for those of you who are interested in this. I don't want to take up too much of Nir's time, but if anyone is interested, they can check the links, or we can just email me with any questions around our certification or implementing AI in their business in the email I shared in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start. Thank you, Stiles. I hope this session is going to give you a lot of value because Cloudonics is not your typical AI company. We're a little different from most. This is also going to be a little bit different than most webinars, and that is that while we walk through the presentation, I actually encourage people, if you have a question, just shoot out and ask it. Don't keep it to the end and so on, because sometimes I tend to ramble a little bit. So my name is Nir. I'm CEO and founder of Cloudonics. Cloudonics is a communications platform, and what we do, we actually give voice agents, specifically voice agents, what we call superpowers. And why superpowers? Because voice agents today are quite powerful. They have a lot of capabilities, but when it comes to communications and telephony, they come out a little short. They have various issues, and that's actually where we come in, and we actually give them superpowers to do things normally they can't do. So just a little bit about us. Cardonics today is connected to most of the, I'd say, popular voice agent platforms such as Retail and Vapi, Synflow, LiveKit. All of them are fully interconnected. We're connected and certified on 15 different carriers, actually already about 20 multiple platforms such as Twilio, Telnex, Nexmo, integrated with all of them. And we've integrated with most communication systems, either on-premise or in the cloud, such as Cisco, Avaya, Teams, you name it, we've done it. We've been in the communication business, that's where we come from. And AI, the evolution into AI is mostly what we are doing today with contact centers and sales operations and so on. We work primarily with agencies all over the world. Agencies love what we do, namely because we save them a lot of time and we save them a lot of money on working with their existing agents. Sorry for that. I love this quote from Anderson Horowitz. You don't need a PhD in AI to build and launch an enterprise voice agent. I think this is the epitome of this, I'd say, gold rush that we're currently experiencing. I look at what's happening today in the world of AI, and it feels to me, I turned 50 back in December, and for me it feels a little bit back like early 1900, like 1990, the internet / .com boom, late 1990, early 2000s, and that's more or less, it feels exactly the same. A lot of hype, a lot of stuff going on. I'm confident a lot of it is a lot of fluff, as we all know, but a lot of it is going to stay. And specifically voice agents, specifically agentic AI, for me personally, as I see it, is revolutionary. Not only because what it is capable of doing, but also because how it is implemented today on most platforms and how businesses are using it. So today, when we look at agentic AI, specifically voice agents, we see three primary use cases. We're talking about the outbound campaigns, we're talking about inbound customer care, and inbound triage. And when I say triage, I mean the ability to converse with a customer, an inbound customer, or a prospect to understand what they want and potentially route them according to what they need. This is now, I know that there are other cases as well, other use cases, but they are less common. Based on working with over 50 different agencies, sorry, these are the primary categories that we've seen. And these categories are, when you look at them, they seem to be incredibly simplistic. And if you're an agency or you're a consultant, most things or most use cases we've seen is that a customer comes in and says, I've got an outbound campaign for real estate. I need to dial 50,000 people and play them a message and get their input and blah, blah, blah. And it seems more or less starting to become a cookie cutter thing. It's more or less repetitive. By the way, I said, if you have comments or questions, you're welcome to jump in. And what we've seen is that within these use case constructs, most agencies and most customers do the same mistakes over and over and over again. And we see it all the time. And let's look at the problems that each one of these use cases has. So outbound campaigns is what I refer to as complicated. Why are they complicated? Number one is regulatory issues. If you're doing an outbound campaign in Europe or in the US or in Eastern Europe or in, let's say, the UAE, the overall number of regulatory things that you have in there that prevent you to do that campaign properly is enormous. Number two is capacity. Most people that do outbound campaigns start the campaign and only halfway through kind of realize, wait a minute, I need more capacity. I'm paying a lot more money for the capacity I'm using, but I don't really need it, and so on. So there are various things in there. And the most annoying thing that we've seen is agent response issues, is that the way the campaign is prompted and built in many cases will cause the agent to actually actively disconnect the call without really needing to do so. And we've seen that happen all too many times. When we're talking about inbound customer care, this is what I call an expensive problem. And it's expensive because of three primary factors. Number one, telephony charges. The bigger your contact center, the higher number of inbound or concurrent sessions you want to handle with your customers, the more expensive it becomes. Number two, development charges. Now, most people say, oh, I've got an agent that receives the call. That's it. But that's completely wrong, because an agent is very much like a human being. It needs to be kept on training. I need to feed it more and more and more data. And number three is the AI data maintenance. That means that if I'm an enterprise and I want to make sure that my customer care is functioning the right way with the AI agents, the result is that I always need to keep on updating that data and feeding these vectors back and embedding them back into the AI. And these are expensive. What we've also learned is that depending on the AI stack that you're using, sometimes it becomes more difficult. Sorry for that. And the third one is what I refer to as inbound triage, is annoying. Inbound triage is more or less a fancy replacement for IVR, what we refer to as interactive voice response, or ACD, what was called automatic call distribution. It's basically that thing that answers the phone and says, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. And people are using AI as a replacement for that, which is really annoying. That's number one. Number two, it can be destructive for your business. If that triage agent is ill-prompted or uses a personality that doesn't fit with your business, the result is going to be detrimental. It's going to be really bad. And number three, and this is the funny part, is that it will always require a legacy IVR fallback in case somebody needs that. So it's kind of like defeats the purpose that it's there, and you actually sometimes need to press a button. It's just a little weird. And we've seen these use cases, all these three use cases implemented over and over and over again. And it doesn't really matter which platform was used. We've seen agents being built on VAPI and retail, on Synflow, on Ultravox, you name it. They all more or less behave the same. They presented relatively similar capabilities. Um, and their ability to perform was mostly, let's say, reliant on the agency's ability to prompt the agent the right way and provide the data to it in a meaningful manner. And what we've learned about agencies, and
I
because
keep getting caught by these kinds of things because I don't know if it's inconsistent or I'm just not paying attention.
what do you mean,
Super farm is open.
Eric?
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 I think you were speaking to someone else.
Yeah, no, that was Eric.
Sorry, I don't know how I got unmuted.
I was like, what?
That's fine. Maybe he's on his phone and he pressed the button. Oh, yeah, that was a funny moment.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm like, yeah, the presentation makes sense. I don't know why
I'm like,
this
what?
hostility, you know?
That doesn't make any sense for a second.
Yeah.
Funny. Yeah. Now, so here's a slide that I would really like to get your input, So how many of you we're currently listening are agencies or work for agencies? It's not a rhetorical question. This is the time to open your microphone to say me.
I mean, yes, we kind of
I do.
people to a services company. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said I'm working with an agency right now. So we're looking to build some solution with your tool. So let's continue.
Okay. So most of the agencies, at least that we met, up to the point they started working with us, were number one, single stacked. That means that they were using a very specific set of tools to build whatever they want. So they were either using VAPI or they were using retail or they were using Synflow. Or they were using, and for, let's say, building the scenarios or the integration, they're using either N8N or Make or Zapier. But that's it. So they were like sticking to these quite significantly. Number two, they were very much prompt centric. And what does that mean? It means that they were so focused on building the perfect prompt based on their existing stack that sometimes they actually forgot who's actually consuming that prompt. It's not the AI, it's the person receiving or answering the call. So they were looking at it sometimes from the AI perspective, not so much from the listener perspective. And when that comes to conversational AI, that is a problem. And in most cases, and this is actually something that I think is good, they are very much use case specific or vertical specific, to be more accurate. That means that I've seen agencies that deal primarily with real estate, but if you come to them with something that has to do with insurance, they have no idea what to do with it. They don't get it. And that's a reasonable thing. That being able to become an expert of a specific vertical is important, specifically in this world. Because we can definitely digress and go too broad. And what we've learned is that working with over 50 different agencies, what we've seen is that the best solutions out there don't take what we call a magic bullet approach to agentic AI. And what does that mean? So as human beings, we have a tendency to look at the piece of tech and it becomes our magic bullet to fix anything. So a lawyer goes into court after working with ChatGPT to write his, opening statement, and it's full of shit because somebody told him he can do that, and becomes like a magic bullet. We don't know if it hits or not. Maybe it will hit our own leg and we'll shoot ourselves in the foot. But We do it simply because we're human beings, and in most cases, we're very, very lazy. And that's how it works. And that magic bullet approach that most people take is wrong. And this is where most agencies, this will differentiate a good agency to a mediocre one or a really bad one. Okay. And that is very important. And what we've learned in Cloudonics is that when we work with the various agencies and teach them how to leverage and open their, let's say, spectrum of how agentic AI can work for them and how to integrate it with other tools, then they become better at what they do. So what I'm going to show you right now is a few use cases that were implemented by Cloudonics customers, agencies, that came in with very interesting problems. And the problem initially, so they already had a working AI solution. They already had an agent working for them. And they were already, they were crossing that chasm between no AI to full-blown AI. So they were somewhere in the middle of that. There's the chasm, and they're somewhere in the air. But at some point, they realized that they're about to fall simply because some things were missing. And when we started working with them, we actually enabled them to do new things. So the first one is the inbound triage. So I mentioned the inbound triage as being a fancy replacement for an IVR. And the problem with replacing your IVR with an AI is that depending on your business, it can literally kill you. Why is that? Because if your business is working with people who are, let's say, over 60, over 70, and you receive a lot of inbound calls, and these guys are already conditioned to the press 1, press 2, press 3, then doing the AI-based voice triage may actually be detrimental. I don't know if any of you recall, but there used to be a TV show called Frasier. Remember that TV show 15 years ago? One of the episodes, Frasier's dad is calling the bank, and the bank has a voice-activated IVR, and he spends 30 minutes saying accounting, and the IVR doesn't get it. And it will be exactly the same because people talk differently. And depending on the conditioning of what you need, an inbound voice agent for triage will not work. In this specific case, which was very interesting, so they originally implemented a single agent that was doing everything. So you would call the agent, the clinic, the agent will answer the call, will start, pardon the expression, flapping its gums at you, telling you a lot of stuff, and you would eventually tell it, I need 1, 2, 3, but it never really matched what the agent had because people were very much conditioned to what happened before. And that actually caused them to lose customers. So when they came to us, we looked at it and said, no, split it into like 3 different agents, each one with a specific target, with a specific task, and just put a standard IVR at the front. And that actually reduced their call drops by 17%. Just doing that little thing, which is a lot when you think about it, because they were receiving approximately 1,500 calls on a daily basis. Okay, so that's one. This thing, actually, this case shows that in many cases, businesses that want to go into agentic AI are trying to do, the full Monty, just jumping in and implementing it to the fullest, and in the process actually lose who the customer is, and they forget it. And the result is that they actually hurt their own business. The second case is something that may or may not speak to some of you. So one of the biggest caveats of working with what I refer to as a single stack provider is that sometimes they will have problems. And when they have problems, their system will not work. So for a second, let's take a little bit of a break for like a minute here. And I want to know from you guys what platforms today you use for agentic AI.
I can speak first. We've been using AI agents since we're an AI company for the last, let's say, 9 months. Well, actually, no longer than that, a year or two ago. And we've been doing a lot of things by plumbing together Zapier and ChatGPT and some code. Obviously, now there are better tools, but we kind of created our own, stack, which is clearly not optimal in light of all the recent development.
Okay. So today, do you do agentic voice or just the chat?
Yeah, we tried using some agents for calling at some point, but it was a bit difficult to use them in the right way, and they were a bit expensive. Some of those problems you correctly spelled them out. As in the technology, in some cases, it's not 100% there. Others are also related to the process, So, for example, someone submits the details on the form, they receive a call, and they realized it was a bot, so it was a bit awkward. So I think for inbound, maybe it works a bit better if you're speaking with customer support versus to outbound. So obviously, as you see, I'm in the interesting situation of being an AI expert and data scientist at the same time, running a small business and dealing with some of the sales and marketing processes myself.
Yeah. So the interesting, what you said is accurate. And the interesting thing that we've seen recently is that every agentic voice platform out there suffers from similar problems. It's not that they suffer, it's the realities of SaaS. Sometimes there are issues, there are bugs, there are failures. And when a customer comes in or an AI agency and builds your, corporate AI or your enterprise agent that answers the phone on a single platform, and that platform goes down, your business is down. Now imagine, I'm going to say something very nasty, but imagine that you're a pizza place and you take orders on the phone and your AI agent that takes your orders is down. So what, for the next hour, 2, 4, 8, you're not going to get orders? That is just bad. Doesn't make any sense. And we've seen situations over the past, I'd say 6 months, where various agentic voice solutions were unavailable for almost 24 hours. Can you imagine your business going down for 24 hours? Like, it's ridiculous. So in this specific case, an insurance agency came to us and said, we have a problem. We today have voice agents working on 2 different platforms. But each platform has its own phone number. Each platform has its own thing, and we want to load balance. You want to be able to move things from one to the other if something fails. We want to be able to potentially do A/B testing or punish specific agents if they don't perform well, because we do have that statistic. That was what they wanted to do. And a single stack approach just won't cut it. You can't. You need something to be able to load balance between the two and so on. So one consultant told them, okay, so do call forwarding. So you call one number, then you call number. So for every call, you need to pay twice because you're now transferring calls. Didn't make any sense. So they started working with us, and we actually enabled them to do all this load balancing and all this failover capabilities inside Cloudonics. So they built this capability of literally punishing an agent for misperforming. So the less number, so if it was misperforming, it was basically getting less calls to it, for example. Eventually, they ended up integrating 4 different agentic stacks at the end of the process, which was very, very beautiful to see. This is what I call outbound mayhem. Why outbound mayhem? So if you remember the previous slide, we were talking about regulatory issues. So anyone from our listeners, are you doing outbound campaigns?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People on this event may have come from outbound.
Well, I'm talking
Yeah,
about outbound
I
phone
do.
calls.
Not phone calls in this case, but we do have people who do this. AI is not as effective. And like you said, there are also certain regulations in different countries, it's different things. You can need some kind of soft,
Yeah.
let's say, permission things
Well,
like that.
I actually do outbound calls right now. As I'm building, I'm working on building something with outbound calls that can perform outbound calls.
And how difficult is it? Emmanuel? Doing the outbound
I
calls
said,
campaign.
yeah,
Sorry?
yeah, I'm working on outbound calls campaign actually. That's what I said I'm working on outbound calls campaign actually. That's what I'm
Mhm.
building on. That's something I'm building about, like what I'm building everything up. So it's to make about 5,000 calls a day.
Mhm.
So that's it. It's to make about 5,000 calls a day, and it's to it should transfer if the other end, if they request for to speak to a supervisor, the AI should transfer
Right. So that's this is like one of the
a
classic
human's
problems.
number.
Yeah. One of the classic problems
Yeah.
with
So
voice
it was able
AI.
to transfer. Yeah, VAPI. So
Well, let's not
the problem I'm
mention
having now is the if
specific agent platforms. But what Emmanuel just said is about transferring calls with voice agents is potentially one of it. You think about it and you're saying this should be like the simplest thing to do, right? But it's actually really, really complicated because most carriers don't support what the various voice agent platforms had implemented. These are 2 different things. They don't support it because of toll fraud and security related issues, but the AI people, they're developers, they're data people, so they say, wait a minute, that's the standard. They should support it, but it doesn't work like that. So in this specific case, a real estate agency was working or is still working in a very highly regulated geography. And when I say highly regulated, it means that if they make 500 calls a day, they get fined. Extremely regulated. So they needed a way to interconnect not with one carrier, but eventually to interconnect with 5 different local carriers to carry their outbound calls and to be able to work with multiple phone numbers and to be able to control what happens without having the limitations of declaring each and every number and as if saying, I want to be able to have my own switching environment but I don't and control everything, but I don't want the same limitations that I have on other platforms out there that require me to literally announce everything I have. So if any of you ever work with Twilio or Plivo or Telnix and you want to have your own phone number in there, you need to go about and declare it to them. They have to approve it. It's like a full-blown KYC procedure. So originally they implemented the entire solution as a single stack. So they had one voice agent platform, and that voice agent platform was doing all their calls for one carrier that was interconnected to that specific agent platform. Eventually, after re-implementing with Cloudonics, it enabled them to interconnect with 5 different local carriers. So they stopped working with the original interconnected platform. They brought their own local carriers, which improved their regulatory compliance on one hand, because they were able to own their numbers and own the entire process. Also, they did a full KYC with the carrier, which made life for them really easy. And the important part was that because of their ability to have local interconnects and be able to purchase phone numbers in bulk from the local carriers, that actually increased their delivery rate by 23%. 23% more people were answering the phone for their outbound calls. And that's a lot. That's a lot because you can have, think about it this way, you make 1,000 calls, it means 230 more people answered the phone. Normally, the answer rate is about 15% in these campaigns. So this was very, very important. Now, most voice agent platforms allow you to work with 1 or 2 additional carriers or potentially more, but to load balance between them and start moving in real time between them is impossible to do because they don't provide these capabilities. And also they shouldn't. They shouldn't because they're an AI platform. They're not a communications or a telephony platform. They're an AI platform, which makes perfect sense. This one I really like. I call it from squads to SWAT teams. Today, most agentic AI, most agentic AI stacks enable you to create something called squads. Squads are, let's say, groups of agents that work together and share some form of shared data to an extent. The problem is that when you work with a squad, each solution has their own name. It will have their own, you can only create a squad in the same stack. So if, for example, I want to work with 3 different stacks, sharing the information between them is going to be a pain because one of them needs to get the information one way, the other needs to get it another way, and it becomes a hassle. In Cloudonics, because the way Cloudonics works, in Cloudonics, for example, every call has its own data storage environment. So everything or every piece of data that you store in Cloudonics, as you move the call between the various platforms, you can traverse that data with you. So you can create squads across multiple stacks. And when you do that, depending on the implementation, you can, number one, reduce the agent delay that occurs when you when you traverse between one platform and another with other solutions by at least 250 milliseconds per each transaction. And data that is transferred out of band, when I say inbound, it means that the data is traversed as part of the call itself. And out of band means that the data is traversed using an API, but because it is already stored in Cloudonics, you can pre-traverse that data before the call gets over to the other side. So again, you can reduce that latency of response from the agentic platform by almost 300 milliseconds as well, which when we're talking about customer services and sales is becoming more and more important. So these are just 4 use cases, but out of these, you can extrapolate to different scenarios and different ideas and different, let's say, challenges that you potentially have today. And what I'm interested right now to learn from you guys is out of the 4 use cases, okay, what kind of challenges, not specifically, I'm confident you don't have the exact ones, but what kind of challenges today you are experiencing with agentic voice? Where do you see agentic voice, lacking or suffering from various caveats that make your life as AI agencies and implementers really, really hard?
For me, I think it's still some issues of realism, like delays, definitely one. Then I think so. I think that large language models themselves, they're probably quite fast in dealing with responses. If let's say you're dealing with text, right? But obviously the end-to-end thing, transcription, sent to an LLM, generate the voice, causes all these delays. Also from a technical viewpoint, like I've used some solutions in the past, and I'm not sure how smart they were in the way they deal with data. Like I'm like, are these guys even using caching? It's difficult to tell, you know. So these are some of the things that come in my mind.
Okay, yeah. So caching is a big thing when it comes to AI. Not so much caching, more in the question of what to cache and how to cache, because I've seen a lot of people just cache everything, and eventually the cache storage becomes more expensive than the actual AI because it gets to gigabytes of storage. So that's one thing. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. So, so working with these, over 50 agencies and so on, what did we learn? In a nutshell, purism kills your business. Like, if you are going into a pure single stack solution, eventually that won't cut it. You won't be able to you won't be able to get to where you want to go simply because it doesn't make sense. Every stack, every solution provider has their own fortes and their own, caveats, and sticking to one will eventually not get you to where you want to go to. What we've learned is that multi-stack solutions are far more resilient when it comes to fault tolerance, when it comes to being able to A/B test your prompting and A/B test your platforms. So maybe a certain prompt will work better on platform A and it will work, worse on platform B. I don't know. Personally speaking, today, I'm over the past, I'd say a month more or less, I've been experimenting with vibe coding. So vibe coding is very interesting. We're only at the beginning of it, but it shows a very interesting promise. And I've been doing a little bit of vibe coding using OpenAI, Gemini, and Claude. And today I can honestly say that Claude does a superior job at generating source code compared to OpenAI and Gemini. No question about it. It does it much better. I started referring to it as he, which is ridiculous. It's an it. But it does it much better. Can't say anything about it. Another thing is different stacks for different verticals. Some stacks or some combination of stacks will produce different results depending on the vertical you work in. So, for example, we've seen that OpenAI, if you use OpenAI as your language model, it is very well adapted to free-formed speech. So the way it analyzes what you say and how it responds is superior to other models. But if you ask it to analyze, let's say, a technical text and formulate a response according to it, sometimes it does mistakes. Quite often, actually, if your prompt is not built the right way. But the same prompt, for example, on let's say Gemini, will work much better because the way they analyze text is different. They're different. So the various stacks out there that give you the full stack, the full AI experience for your agent, If they don't give you all the tools that you need and the models that make your life easy, specific on the vertical, then you may need to use multiple stacks. And I actually encourage people to use multiple stacks. When it comes to phone calls, single carrier connections will kill you. So I see a lot of people building voice agents, relying on just a single solution for the telephone. Could be Twilio, Plivo, Telnix. It doesn't really matter who is your solution provider. But as long as you use one, just one, you will always end up in the same place. That you will end up in regulatory constraints. You're going to end up in situations where something doesn't work and you're just, you're hanging by a thread. And I see that as a bad thing. Call control is the AI Achilles heel. AIs don't know how to do call control the right way. It can be transfers, it can be hangups, they just don't do it right. I don't know why. I guess there are a lot of reasons. Some of them could be infrastructure related, some of them could be AI related. Maybe the tools are not, the actual agent tool is not built the right way or is defined the wrong way, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't work. Well, it works to an extent. And the worst part is that when you need smarter call control from within inside your agent, it's not there. It's not available. And this is exactly where Cloudonix sits, in that area that enables you to take and give your agent a lot of control capabilities. That's why the various agencies love what we do. The next one is what I refer to as AI only or AI pure experiences will eventually fail. If as a business, somebody tells you that the AI will do everything, then I normally sit back, I have a little chuckle and laugh, and then I say no, because it'll never happen. We are at least, I would say, we're at least 5 to 10 years away from the point that an AI agent will be able to fully replace a human being. Not because we don't trust them, simply because, it's like saying that you're going to take a second grader, and give him a job in a customer care, call center. It's not going to work, regardless how smart he is, because there's a learning curve and the AI still needs to learn. So we're a little bit away from that. And even then, I don't see that an AI only experience will work completely. I think that at the end, we're going to bring what I call hybrid experiences, where both an AI and a human interact with another human or another AI. I think we're about, I'd say, about 6 months away from having AIs interacting between themselves with a human, like one call, one human and two AIs talking to all of them together. So we're about 6 months away from that, according to what I see. And this is, for me, like the holy grail of this entire process, is that any AI experience that I saw that was AI focused and not prospect focused eventually failed. An AI experience will be only as good as our ability to understand who is our prospect, who is the person who is currently interacting with our AI. Am I talking to a 65-year-old person living in Florida looking to invest a little bit out of his pension fund? Or am I talking to a 32-year-old housewife out of, I don't know, London, who is looking to buy a vacuum cleaner? This is one scenario, this is another scenario. And when we build the AI, we should actually think about it from the prospect perspective, not so much from the AI perspective. Most of the experiences are built on you see the prompts. You are a sales blah blah blah, and here's all your data about the product you're selling, and you're gonna set the AI agent on its own, and hopefully you'll get your results. And it doesn't work eventually. So the prospect focused experiences work much better. Sorry. So questions, everybody. This is the point where everybody can turn on their cameras and their microphone and open the floor for a discussion.
Okay, so can I talk now?
Sorry?
I said, can I talk now?
Yeah.
My first question is going to be, how will Cloudonics really be able to handle the call transfer, and also will it be able to, like, if the call transfer failed, will it be able to revert back to the assistant? Like, assuming the call transfer was unable to go through, then will the assistant, will the bot be able to refer back the call back to the script to give it to him or something like that?
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I think I understand what you're trying to say. So think about it this way. Let's forget for a second about AI, and let's forget a second about Cloudonics or anything else. Okay, let's talk for a second about your traditional office communication system, a PBX. Okay, a call comes into your office. The first thing it meets is the PBX. The call then gets connected to somebody's phone, desk phone, and you actually imagine that the call goes from the person who called all the way to the desk phone. This is what we imagine because this is an easy way to think about it. But actually, the PBX system that was in the office is a part of that call at any given time. It's always there. Now, when you take a call, regardless of what AI platform you use, if you traverse the call through a third-party system like Cloudonics, for example, that platform may or may not expose various APIs that you can use in order to do call transfers, to create conference calls, to put calls on hold, and do all sorts of things. And you do so by integrating agent tools. So you build a little bit of a tool that will do a web API request over to Cloudonics, or if you're using something like N8N or Make, it can do it over to Make and then traverse it into Cloudonics as required. And you work with that because a telephony experience is a stateful one. It means that from start to finish, you can find that little piece of data. In Cloudonics' case, it's called a token that identifies that call. And the minute you have that piece of information, you can control it. So it doesn't matter if it's transferring, adding another person to a conference call, disconnecting the call, maybe recording it, then you can definitely do that. So all of that is available. The only thing that you as an agency will need to do is to build the tools to activate these APIs accordingly. Does that answer your question?
It does actually. But let me ask further. We are bidding on Cloudonics, right? You mentioned that we should diversify our assistants, right? Like we should not focus on one just a single assistant to like answer our majority of our calls, because if the system fails for a while, the business is down for this period. So also I understand that part. I also want to know the APIs we'll be using, they'll be going from which APIs are we going to be using? Yeah.
You
I
mean
don't know.
if you'll be using
this question
Cloudonics
is from
APIs, or let me understand. So you're asking if you should use the Cloudonics APIs or you should use, let's say, VAPI APIs,
Yeah, that's what I'm asking of.
you need to
No, I feel like
you'll most probably use both, depending on the case.
both, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me explain the case now. Can I explain the case? So the case is this. So I built an assistant on VAPI and is able to transfer the call. But the only problem is that once he transfers the call, the assistant ends the call at his own side, meaning that the call is going to be between the person on the other end and the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? So it's going to be like the person on the other end and the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to know the assistant to be able to wait a minute until the person there or the other end picks the call.
Emmanuel, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm getting the feeling that the line of questions is going very much into an implementation point. What I suggest is that you join our Discord and we can talk there, because I think maybe some other people have a more generic question. This is a very implementation specific thing.
Right, listen, I'll bet you $100.
All right, no problem. All right, no problem. Thank you.
Struggling, and you're tired of struggling.
But the way the event is finishing in
You're just
about 2 minutes, so I think we probably need to wrap up soon. I'll say if anyone has any other questions, we're gonna send a follow-up email, or you can just send me an email, then I'll forward them to Nir. And I guess this is where, I'd like to thank you, Nir. I guess, we can be organizing more of these. We had more than 40 registrations, but it looks like maybe this time is not convenient. I think also a lot of people are away because of the Easter break
Could be.
as well. But thank you. That was very, very useful, and looking forward to more developments in this space.
Yeah. First of all, let's put it, I was very happy to do this. I'm confident there are a lot more scenarios. We're encountering new use cases every day, which are very interesting. If you want, I'll be happy to do another one, let's say in a couple months from now, where we have more interesting use cases and more, let's say, I'd say challenging use cases that came to us. Today, Cloudonics is becoming kind of like a de facto solution, for the various voice agent platforms. They just send their challenges over to us. Their customers come in and say, okay, well, I need to do this. Can this be done? And we help them do it. So yeah, absolutely. We'll be happy to do so and update you guys as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, and we hope to see you soon at some other of our events. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. A good one.